I really enjoyed this conversation with Paul Chiasson. He's a Slidell loan officer, and if you haven't got to know him, this is a great way to do that. He's got 27 years of experience. He's got he's a wealth of knowledge. He's seen a lot of things, and he has a really good perspective on what's going to happen in the market in this next year. So if you're really interested in learning about Paul and what the market's going to do this year, check out this conversation. Paul, welcome to the In the Arena
Thank you.
real estate segment.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've never been in the arena. This is fun. A little exciting.
Like promise the gladiator does not jump out behind the couch. If it did, we need to do that, man.
Yeah,
One time. I mean, today is the day, right?
Yeah. It is.
To joke about that, but
So in these real estate episodes, we focus on the residential real estate world, and we talk a lot about 3 specific areas. But before we do any of that, we really want to talk about you, promote who you are, talk about your experience in the real estate world.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this for?
27 years.
27 years.
Yeah.
And it's funny. So
seen quite a bit of trends over the years too.
Which is funny because right now, after everything that's happened in the last couple of years, and more in 2025, so if people are watching this in 2040, they can go back and say, okay, where were we at in the world? But everybody right now, we're coming out of the slump. Everybody's starting to positive things are happening.
Yeah, we're seeing some optimism in the market for sure.
People think this year is going to be the year. It's going to pop off.
Yeah.
Like you probably know that this is where it starts trending. But it might take 5-6 years for it to really.
Yeah, I mean, 'tis the time of the year, right? It's spring season, right? A lot of people like to sell homes. A lot of people like to buy homes and move. This year feels a little different, right? And mainly because there's some challenges, with interest rates and that sort of thing. But as anyone can tell you, I mean, when rates are up and buyer competition's down, that leads to equity win, right? When you're purchasing a home, whether you're on the investment side of it or if you're on the primary residence side of it. So those are the types of conversations that we're having right now with a lot of customers. A lot of our clients are concerned. The overall sentiment is, should I do it now? Should I sell? Should I buy? Is now the right time, right? And so we do a very, and I've always been this way, I'm the product of 2 teachers. So both my mom and dad are former teachers.
Are they from the Slidell area too? Or?
No, I grew up on a West Bank, aka the best bank, and and you may know something a little about a little trivia on the West Bank. We actually had, I grew up in Slidell, Louisiana, so we actually had a rap song by MC Thick. You can kind of Google it. Cruising down the street, real slow. What the fellas be yelling? Marrero. So that's our claim. That's our claim to fame. That's our claim to fame in Marrero. Go West Bank.
I'm gonna have to look that up. And then the second, there's actually a guy in New Orleans, a local guy. I guess he plays dive bars and stuff like that. But he wrote a song, and it sounds like to the tune of Uptown Girl.
Okay.
But it's West Bank Girl.
Okay.
And it's like this, like something at the fly, like it talks like.
I'm proud of the West Bank.
Yeah. Anyway,
I am.
I'll have to send you that one. You'll have to send me the other one.
So I literally went to.
That's awesome.
I actually went to where my mom taught. It was literally a mile and a half from my house, Visitation of Our Lady. And Dad was at Archer Shaw High School right down the road. So I went to Shaw for 2 years and then ended up transferring to Brother Martin.
That's awesome.
But West Bank's good people.
Yeah,
it is
good people.
So it's interesting. You were raised by two teachers. So tell me how that impacted your career.
It's a no-brainer, and education's in my heart. So I want people to be educated on what they're about to do. And when you're talking about, when you ask somebody, what does home mean to you? Right? Home means a lot to a lot of people for a lot of good reasons, right? It could mean sanctity. It could mean peace. It could mean family. It could mean love, right? So, I adopted that mindset early on that when you're dealing with someone's home, right? I mean, this is something you take very seriously. It could be one of the largest investments someone ever makes.
It often very much is.
It really, it is. And so I've always educated and asked a lot of questions because in our industry, there's a lot of transactional mindset. Approach to our business when it comes to take application, process loan, go to closing, move on to the next one. I've always been kind of a trans-relational kind of guy because the relationship piece is critical. Yeah. Absolutely critical, because that's where your future business comes from if you do it right. Yeah, because someone has a good experience, they're going to tell people. And I have been blessed over the years that people have found that the experience that they had in doing business with me they wanted to refer their friends, their coworkers, their neighbors, their moms, their dads, the people at church, people at the ballpark, and quite frankly, that has been a true blessing.
Yeah. So do you think? And I know you know the answer to this, but that you've been doing it for 27 years.
Yeah.
How many people come back after they've worked with you the first time to work with you again?
Thanks, Jared, for bringing up my age.
Yeah. You said it.
So no, at the end of the day, I'm seeing generations now. We're seeing grandkids now. Great grandkids. I haven't seen great grandkids yet, but hopefully,
Just give it some time.
If I continue to stay consistent in my delivery and my mindset of making sure that everybody has a great experience, then it sort of takes care of itself, right? It's never about me. I have a team behind me. And we have a really good system in place that allows me to be able to deliver, and that's important. But I think what it boils down to is a lot of, I find in our industry, I think consistency is lacking. Consistently delivering that good news and sometimes not so good news. Some things will come up. We're rocking and rolling through a loan process. Touching the client multiple times during the week. And then all of a sudden we get a phone call from the title company, judgment, right? And those things happen. We don't anticipate that, right? Sure. But how you handle that conversation with that client in that moment is critical, right? Because in some cases it's on the seller side, right? It's not necessarily on the buyer side,
Courtney calls that conversational leadership.
These
type of conversations, like having the courage to have a conversation with somebody, deliver the bad news. And the way that we like to approach it here is that we're willing to give you that bad news, but we're also going to give you a solution to it.
Bingo.
It might not be the solution that you like. It might not be an easy solution, but we're not going to just present you with a problem without having an opportunity to fix it and then putting every energy that we can into trying to get it solved.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you just nailed on the point. It's having those solutions in place. Again, something that maybe came in unexpected, but having some empathy in the moment. Yeah. Because our industry is commission driven, right? So most loan officers really across America are paid based on their production, right? When a loan officer hears that there's an issue on a loan, especially a deal killer type issue, right? The brain stops and they're moving on to other things. And to me, that's one of the things that I'm really super proud of our team is we stop in that moment. And if we have a solution, in some cases, I'm all about collaboration. Yeah. We collaborate 3 times a week at our company, some on a larger scale, but even on a smaller scale, just in my Louisiana and Mississippi group, and we talk about these things. Let's talk about our wins. Let's talk about our learns, right? Because the learns to me is so critical. Not to rejoice,
wins, but people don't realize that
it is. But human nature. You're gonna. If I can share a learn, right, as the leader, right, and I can share a learn and say, hey, this is where I went wrong. This is where we made a mistake. This is where we missed the boat, and I own it.
Yeah, it's
all about ownership. It's about accountability, right? Yeah. You own it. And hopefully you could have navigated through those murky waters, help that client in the right direction so they can get to the goal that they want to get, or maybe have a plan B, right? And maybe recommend them to possibly another lender in town, or maybe somebody who has a portfolio option at one of the local banks, those sort of things. But if that's not handled properly, that's a relationship that can be tarnished and destroy any future opportunity for them to say kind things about you and refer others. So it's ironic because and I don't know what the percentages are, but I probably pull 360 to 380 application credit pulls a year, right? I'm not closing that many loans in a year, right? I mean, the percentage for me is probably 30%, right? Now, it doesn't mean that the other 70%, are just not going to go anywhere. I nurture them, I coach them, I educate them on the sidelines, right? I call it my boot camp. And if they have a desire to purchase, I have a desire to help, and they got me. If it takes a year, 2 years, I had one client that it literally took her 5 years of me encouraging her, installing belief in what is possible, because in her family background, nobody bought a house before, right?
Yeah.
So this was new territory. So we helped her walk through that process of establishing credit, the importance of maintaining those credit, maintaining reserves, saving money, and she did it.
Yeah,
She
I
did
love
it.
that.
She
See,
did
that's
it.
generational in a whole different way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I love that, and I love that you didn't call it wins and losses; it's wins and learns.
It's always
right?
about a learn.
And too many people want to, they don't like the confrontation or the conflict of a loss, right?
Right.
The difficult, but that's where we learn.
Yeah.
And that's where we improve. And so I love that approach. I love that mindset. I love your philosophy around how you do it. That's how there's so many people, like, you can come in like, hey, I can get this done for you, the transaction part.
Right.
But it's, man, so many people respond so well through the educational part.
We're dealing with human beings.
Exactly.
Like, we're not dealing with robots, right? So, and human beings have emotions and expectations and desires, and they come in with a past, and they have dreams,
Yep.
right? In some cases, we have to talk through those dreams if they're not as realistic, right?
Right.
You know, first time home buyer that wants to makes a certain amount of money, and from a budget standpoint, we can only qualify for $200,000, but they've already walked into that $400,000 house that they want.
Exactly.
You know, so a lot of times we have to manage those expectations. I believe in transparency and just straightforwardness. It may not be what they want to hear,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But I feel like, you know, from a due diligence standpoint, I wouldn't be fair to them to say, oh, we'll make that happen, right? We're going to make that happen. And unfortunately, there are, you know, look, we're blessed, man, especially here on the North Shore. We got some great loan officers out there, and some that are not even working with our company, right?
Yeah.
And we, on occasions, will communicate on difficult situations and challenges. I'm all about collaboration. I am not the smartest guy in the room, right? For me, it's all about learning and asking and getting better. If I can get 1% better on every month, I mean, let's talk about it. I'll take 12% better in a year, right? Yeah. In all aspects, not just production, right? Not just metrics, right?
Well,
I'm talking about.
That's why we're put on this earth,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
The purpose of time is so that we can get better and better every day. So whenever it's time for us to go, that we're ready to go, we're gonna go.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose of time. It's not if time didn't exist, you'd be stuck where you were, and you wouldn't have the opportunity to improve.
Yeah.
And that mindset is the key. And when you wrap your brain around that and you think about it, just got to get a little bit better every single day.
It's abundance.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not the only loan officer in town, right? And so for me, if I can leverage the credibility of maybe, you know, another lender who specializes in some doctor's loan or whatnot, right? We do physicians loans, but let's say they have one that's a little better, and that client needs that better loan in order to achieve success in homeownership, right? I'm putting them in that direction, right? Does it hurt a little bit? Yeah, you know, we're passing business, but we're doing the right thing, right? At the end of the day. And to me, that's, you know, we have a very strong culture with our team that everyone resonates in that same mindset, right? But it does make a difference, in my opinion, that the leader leads by example.
100%.
Because if I'm saying we need to do it one way and not doing it in that same fashion, eventually there's a culture crack, there's failure, there's resentment, and we're escaping the abundance mindset of, hey, what are we supposed to do here? So I invite all.
Yeah. And it also breaks trust when that doesn't line up, but it really can grow that trust when they're aligned with what you say and what you do, when those are aligned. And so
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and you know, it's not always so easy, right? And so what has influenced, you know, when you first started as a lender, okay, did you have these same beliefs, or what has influenced them over the years?
So I have to go back to my family. You know, that's always been my foundation. You know, my dad showed me what hard work looked like. He worked 2 jobs. We always thought we had everything, right?
Right.
And but because we had love, right? So my dad would joke, and he's like, "Hey, we're rich, we're rich." I'm like, "Oh man, we don't feel rich, Dad. We can't go on vacation next month, you know." But he said, "No, we're rich in love," and so that's always stuck with me. That I have a true passion, always have, for people. And again, it's not being a people pleaser. Right.
Like a yes person.
From a sales, I'm not a yes person, but truly getting to know that person, asking enough questions, get into their heart, right? Just because as a loan officer or a lender, you know, we could look at a situation from an application and say, oh, well, this is what you need to do, and this is the product you should do it in, and this is the best thing for you. But if we haven't asked them what they're trying to accomplish in that goal, we may be heading in two different directions. Sure. So for me, it's all about really digging in and learning about them. And again, you alluded to it, but didn't necessarily go direct at it. But honestly, I'm a very faithful person, always have been.
Yeah.
And I do believe that homeownership, lending, and what I do, not only from a core value standpoint and everything that I believe in, but I do believe it's somewhat of a ministry what we do in putting people in the right direction, because home means so much to people, right?
You're doing what God called you to do.
And amen.
Yeah.
So if you think about, for me, it's always about, in some cases, this home is not the right fit for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you can afford it. Yes, me as a lender says you qualify for it. I've run you through the automated approval system, and we can make it happen. But this is 45% of your income going to housing.
Yeah.
And you've been living with your mom and dad for 5 years, banking money, right? Making good money in your job. Mom putting breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the table. Mom and dad paying your electric bill, your gas bill, your cable bill, all your bills, right? And then in the next 60 days, you're going to be seeing 45% of your income going to your new house note. Yeah. And you got very little money in the bank, right? Is that the right move? Is that the right thing to do? I have them to think about that, right? Because some lenders will take that all day long and say, hey, he's approved in the system. He's got the money to put down. We got a grant, and hey, meets the guidelines. Let's rock and roll. At the end of the day, this is a $3,000 commission. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, but that's not holistic thinking.
It's not.
And so you can absolutely be transactional, do that. But then when that person, I mean, I cannot tell you, I've bought, I've helped people, I stopped foreclosures, right? I cannot tell you. I had one where someone put her in a house in 2020. She made one payment and never made another payment. Right. It was not the right fit for her. And I met her in that strife position, and it was like, but there's a level there that I appreciate people who have the foresight to say, look, I could do this, but it's not going to be good where you end up. Yeah.
And here's what I say. It's real simple, especially if they're like, oh, no, Mr. Paul, you don't think I can afford this? I say, my system says you're fine, right? But at the end of the day, what I don't want, back in the day I was coaching baseball, travel baseball. I don't want to show up at church or show up at the grocery store, right? Mm-hmm. And ask you, how are things going? How's the house? Did you file your homestead exemption, right? Things that a loan officer truly cares about their clients. They're going to follow up and ask and stay and keep that relationship going. I don't want to find out that you lost your house because you couldn't afford it, right? Knock on wood. Right? In 27 years, I've not had one person say the loan that you gave me caused me to lose my house. Wow. Yeah. Right? And I'm proud of that. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, have I parted ways with certain relationships because that buyer's determined to go in the direction that they want to go? In some cases, yeah. And maybe the guy down the road did the loan and didn't look back, made his commission and kept rolling. But I can sleep really good at night. Yeah. And that's really, I would say at the end of, and again, I've been doing this for 27 years, right? At the end of the day, I stay hungry, I stay humble, and I keep doing the right thing. And to me, if I keep doing that, it's only natural that people are going to feel it in the process with that experience, and they're going to recommend others that they know, like, and trust. Right. And at the end of the day, you build a culture of business, of doing business the right way, where people are going to come back already expecting how they're going to feel through the process. And look, don't get me wrong. We may not be the lowest rate leader in town, right? And again, every business can say that. But the value proposition that people that I do business with or people that my team does business with, it's worth maybe paying an extra 0.25% if that's the case. Sure. Not always, right? To know that you're taken care of, right? And to me, that's where, now do we get into situations where someone's looking for a lower rate and that sort of thing? Yes, and that's where salesmanship comes in. Yeah. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? Because we are in a sales-driven industry. But at the end of the day, it makes for doing business easy when you kind of have set that tone. Yeah. So I don't always feel like I'm chasing that next new client, even though it's important to nurture new relationships. If you've got a past, a database of clients, people that have had success with your experience in the past, it makes doing business a lot easier and a lot less stressful for a loan officer.